So this is the elemental reactions chart. Shout out to Sunmilk for making this overview for you guys. I'll link her. I'll plug her Twitter in the description of this video. But let's talk about elemental synergies. First, we have the Swirl. Where take main character, for example, with their Rasengan, their tornado. If there's any other element it comes in contact with, it will absorb that element, such as fire, fire tornado, hydro, cryo, electricity. Swirl absorbs the first element it comes in contact with and deals elemental damage, affects beings, and generates further elemental reactions. So good synergy if you have like Venti's Black Hole to absorb all that damage and synergize Sucrose with her ultimate. Main character with the tornado, like I said, you could create a fire tornado by shooting the ground on fire with Amber, throwing main character fire tornado to suck up the enemies and make the tornado a fire tornado, and then switch over to Lisa to electrocute the enemies inside for overload damage. We have Crystallize, which this didn't have anything to do, like this didn't have anything in closed beta test 2, but now we do. Geo has some synergy. It's more so the defensive element, because Crystallize reads, Crystallization generates corresponding elemental shards that provides elemental shields, which effectively reduces incoming elemental damage. And that goes for all the elements. So for example, if we're using Noel, and she has in user ultimate, which is a big freaking sword, that does geo damage. If we're fighting against a pyro slime and we end up hitting the pyro slime with our ultimate, we will generate a fire crystal on the ground that you can pick up, and it'll give you a fire shield around your character. Which means if that pyro slime jumps up in the air, slams down on you, you might not take any damage because you have a shield that'll negate that corresponding element's damage. The same goes for all the other elements. Hydro, cryo, electro. You can generate it just by attacking an elemental enemy. Pyro slime, hydro slime, cryo slime, an abyss mage with their elemental shield up. If you just attack them with a geo attack, whether it be main character geo ability, Noel, or Ningguang, you'll be generating these elemental orbs or crystals that you pick up. Negate that corresponding elemental damage. Dendro is a work in progress. Right now we have fire in Dendro, which equals burning. Deals ongoing pyro damage for a duration. Dendro is a bit iffy right now. We don't know what it'll be. Devs are still working on it. I think it might be like a poison damage over time or a debuffer element. I did see some synergy with Dendro and Hydro in closed beta test 2 or 3. I'm forgetting. I think it might have been 3. Where I had Dendro on my body from one of the Dendro shamans and Hydro at the same time, but I was still taking damage over time. So this doesn't apply just for Pyro. It can also apply for Hydro, but now I'm just thinking it might be just a general poison damage over time effect. Yeah. And now if we switch over to the right side, the center of it all, electricity. We have Electro-charge, Overload, and Superconduct. So let's start with Electro-charge. So Electro-charging an enemy using Electric and Hydro deals ongoing electric damage for a duration. You'll notice when we splash an enemy with Barbara, switch over to Lisa, electrocute them, they'll continuously take damage and get shocked, which could stagger the enemy at the same time. So it's very good to use Electro-charge to interrupt enemies. If there's archers that are shooting at you, if you want to interrupt a Spiral Abyss Mage or an Abyss Mage from doing one of his attacks or something, it's a good way to shock them and stagger them, interrupt their abilities with ongoing electro damage for a duration. Very nice. We have Overload. Creates an explosion that deals pyro AoE damage and effectively breaks geoshield. So think of it like you're just shooting one of those explosive barrels around the map. This is technically it. You see some enemies who are on fire, you switch over to Amber, shoot them with a fire arrow. They're inflicted with fire, switch over to Lisa, electrocute them, boom, explosions go off, pyro AoE damage, and it's also effective against geoshield. So if you're going up against a geo user or geo slimes, and you don't have a Claymore user on your team, or anyone to break that geoshield from the Hilly Churls, all you have to do is set the ground on fire, use Amber's Baron Bunny, or use Xiangling. Xiangling might be a better use. Put down Gooba. Gooba will breathe on that Geo Slime or the Geo Shield, and then switch over to Lisa for some synergy to overload the shield, which will do more damage and break it. This can work with the Lava Churls as well, with their shield. So some synergies there. And now Superconduct. Superconduct reads, deals cryo AoE damage and reduces the target's defense. So infusing electric and ice will deal cryo AoE damage to surrounding enemies and reduce the target's defense, which you will notice when you're doing so. You'll notice down arrows gravitating around the enemy's character. So if you want to play it, you could Superconduct if you have ice and electric on your team. Make the enemy have less defense, reduce their defense, and then switch over to something else like Overload, electric and pyro, and electric and hydro, because their defense will still be down. So you could synergize, I guess, Kaya. Kaya is probably your only option since he's the free-to-play character. Kaya, Lisa, you freeze them with Kaya, switch over to Lisa, Superconduct, lower their defense, and then try and set them on fire for some bonus damage. Take effect while their defense is down. That would probably be the play if you do want to have a cryo character on your team. Probably start with the lower defense and then switch over to the damage ones, Electro-charged and Overload. Okay, and on the outer edges, we have Vaporize, Melt, and Frozen plus Shatter. Vaporize reads, deals additional elemental damage, however, also dissipates when the effect occurs. So this is just dealing additional elemental damage. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Vaporize, Hydro plus Pyro. This can go either which way if you're a Hydro character against a Pyro slime, or if you are a Pyro user, aka Amber. I'm trying to think of like free-to-play characters that are easy to obtain. Yeah, Amber versus Hydro slimes. Vaporize. We have Melt, Pyro against Ice, or Ice against Pyro, either which way. Triggering Melt from a Pyro or Cryo attack deals increased damage. Pretty straightforward, right? Pretty straightforward. Triggering Melt from a Cryo or Pyro attack deals increased damage. So Amber's charged arrow against a Cryo slime. We don't actually have any free... Oh, we have Kaya. I keep forgetting about him. I guess Kaya against a Pyro slime. And then we have Frozen plus Shatter. Hydro and Cryo. So you can freeze enemies if you inflict water on them and then freeze them with Kaya. Frozen targets cannot move. Shattering is triggered from physical damage to frozen targets. So if you have Barbara and Kaya on your team, you can splash a little bit of water with Barbara, switch over to Kaya, use his ability to freeze the enemy, and then switch over to your damage dealer, your DPS, whether it be Xiangling, main character, anyone with physical damage, which will shatter them for bonus damage. And if you want to do it the other way around, inflict ice on them first, and then switch over to a water character and splash water on them. That works too. That works too. So whenever it's raining outside, that's like a field day for Lisa. because you have electric, or you could just go around with Kaya and just freeze every enemy as well, you know? And I suppose you also have Pyro, but normally when it's raining, I take advantage of Electro. That's where the damage, that's the damage I want. Electro-charge. But that's not it. There's one more thing I want to go over. One quick thing. Let's take a look at the debuffs. I know that there are some descriptions in the games for artifacts that say like you're affected by cryo or pyro, 40% less time and all that. It might be confusing for some people. So these are the 4 debuffs in the games, but you won't really encounter these debuffs until later on, higher up on the Spiral Abyss floors, maybe certain story quests. It's a little ways like endgame-ish in the story. But we have Engulfing Storm, Slowing Water, Smoldering Flames, and Condensed Ice. Engulfing Storm continuously drains characters' energy recharge. So if you're going up against a electric slime, an electro Sison mage, I think those are the only 2 that have the electro aura. You'll see an aura around their character, like a purple circle around their body. That basically means that your ultimate, if you look at it, your energy will continuously drop over and over. And the only way to get this debuff off of you is by killing the source. So whichever enemy has this aura around their body, you want to focus on them first, negate these debuffs. So whenever you have your ultimate charged up, I'd use it as soon as possible, because more likely than not, your ultimate's going to go away the next second if you're trying to wait for the right chance to use it. I'd use it whenever if you are going up against these people. Slowing Water reads, increases characters' skill cooldown durations. So for example, if you're going up against a Hydro Slime or a Hydro Abyss Mage, your cooldowns will be increased, which means if you have a character that has like a 5 seconds cooldown, like Kaching, her E ability, we can pretty much spam it quite frequently. Those 5 seconds of cooldown turns into like 20 seconds, like 25 seconds. 25 seconds just to use your character's E ability, which is pretty painful, because then you're just left to standard auto-attacking, you know? Especially if you get comboed by like someone who had Engulfing Storm and Slowing Water. You can't use your ultimate, you can't use your skills. You're just auto-attacking, and that's it. So make sure you focus on the enemies that have this water aura around their character. We have Smoldering Flames, which continuously inflicts pyro damage over time to the character. Pretty straightforward. You're just on fire, taking damage over time. The same deal. Pyro Slimes, if they have the aura around them. Pyro Abyss Mages, if they have the aura around them. Focus them first, because the damage hurts. It hurts, alright? But, yeah. You probably won't be seeing these effects going around in the overworld early on. You'll be seeing them, like, later on in the Spiral Abyss as you climb floors and maybe future story quests and stuff. Domains. The higher up domains and the Spiral Abyss. And then last we have Condensed Ice. Increases characters' stamina consumption. So if you see a Cryo Slime or a Cryo Abyss Mage with this aura around them, you'll probably not have any stamina. So if you're using a stamina heavy character, and for me, I feel like the stamina-heavy character is, or stamina-hungry character is Xiangling. Every time I'm using Xiangling, I always run out of stamina. You'll probably not have any stamina. You won't. No matter which character you're using, you're not going to have any stamina. Sprinting consumes more charge attacks, consumes more. You're going to be pretty stationary, a sitting duck, not being able to move anywhere because of that. So make sure you focus on those guys as well who have the Cryo Aura. And then a small little note. Removing the elemental attribute through elemental reactions will nullify the debuff. So you could technically counter Smoldering Flames. If you have Barbara, you're on fire, just make yourself wet, right? But there's not that many characters that can actually apply an element to their own character. I know Barbara has it with her E ability. With her E. Makes herself wet. Xing Xiao has it as well with his E ability. Beto has it with her ultimate, engulfing herself with like electricity. But I think that's it. At least I can't think of any off the top of my head. I think Bennett as well. I think Bennett can get Pyro from his ultimate, so if you do have Condensed Ice debuff on you, I think he can set the ground on fire. And depending on the scenery and where you're at, like if you're out roaming around and there's grass and you have a fire character on or in your party, you could set the grass on fire and step on it and light yourself on fire that way. But I think most of these debuffs that you'll be seeing are in like domains and Spiral Abyss, and there's no grass. You can't set things on fire, you know? But Bennett would also work. And I think that is it. I think that is it over the synergies and the debuffs. I do hope this was informative. I hope it was helpful. Any more comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll be more than happy to respond. Other than that, I hope see you guys next time.